make a start then. So today for our lunchtime faculty research, we have the honour of welcoming Will Briggs. So Will Briggs is a professor here of computer science here at the University of Lynchburg. 33 years of teaching experience, 27 of them here on campus. His recent work, like his colleagues, is centred on sustaining undergraduate education during this challenging period by teaching classes for drawing prospects, notably in computer game design, mentoring undergraduate research, and has been involved in the general studies curriculum through the one-time senior symposium programme, which is now at the Dell first year seminar class. A third edition of his textbook, C++, for Lazy Programmers, designed to add fun and humour in the introductory class, came out in January from A Press. His ongoing interest in critical thinking, computer languages, and the implications of large language models for undergraduate education, our graduate job prospects, can't get those words out, and AI risks. So please join me in welcoming Will Briggs.
Are we also audible? Can you hear me? You're low. Can you hear me? Okay, we're good. Okay. I'm feeling a bit of stage fright here because I usually talk about computer stuff, and this is education, and everybody here is involved with education. So you might know everything. I guess we'll soon know everything I have to say. I did not originally think that this was going to be possible because if you remember when ChatGPT came out, they also had this page that you could go to, and it would evaluate whether something was written by AI. And pretty soon they took it down because they said it doesn't work. And there is something else that's now available. It's GPT-0, as I recall. And there's also an equivalent for the Gemini world. And to be fair, it is working so far, but the way I know that it's working is I test it, and sometimes I test it on my things, and sometimes I test it on student things that I had said, yeah, I know he wrote that. And so far it's working, but I wouldn't bet any money on it be working in November. So you gotta have a human way of evaluating this. Evaluating whether the text that you're seeing or the work that you're seeing was written by the student or written by an AI. Now, I saw a YouTube video that said, I'll have you recognizing AI-generated content by the end in about 5 minutes. He was right, and I did take some of his points, but I'm not just repeating the YouTube video because I found other things as well. And I think by the end, I want to put up some things here and have you say which one of these is AI generated and which one came from a real person. I'm focusing on English prose because I imagine that's what most of us are doing here, except for me and their dad because we're working with computer programs, but I'm not sure about that. When you get student work, is it papers or is it something else? Like, we've got several professors out here. You wouldn't be getting, I think, a regular paper, but you might be getting a lab report
or a graph.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some data.
Is anybody from the business school or the arts? I can be a little relieved that there's nobody from the arts here because I don't know how to evaluate. Well, okay, I don't know how to prove it. You can look at it and tell as well whether the art or music was generated by AI. Oh yeah, I mentioned GPT-0, and it's working so far. It also gives a little explanation that will say, the reason I knew this is because I found this kind of pattern. Or it'll say, I have this prediction that if this word occurs, the next one is 2% likely to occur if it's by a machine and 1% if it's a human or something like that. So it's doing something that I can't duplicate. Okay. I call these red flags because they are not objective criteria, and this is going to be a problem because I assume the professors in this room, if you suspect cheating, you need objective criteria. Of course you do. And computers are really good at objective criteria. They can fake it very, very well. So what we have instead is more red flags than absolute lines you must not cross. It reminds me somewhat of the way they diagnose autism. I am not an expert in autism, although I do have an autistic son. And what they'll say is, we've got this checklist of things, and if you have a language delay and that's all, then yeah, we're not thinking autism. But if it's a language delay and this sort of disconnect and something else and something, if you get a certain number of red flags, they say, okay, we think you're on the spectrum. So I'm thinking we kind of do the same thing here. If you get a lot of M dashes, for example, then some people write with a lot of M dashes. I write with a lot of M dashes. And the AIs have sort of been trained apparently recently to cut back on the M dashes. But if you see a lot, that's one red flag. I wonder if anybody has another red flag that you think, yeah, that immediately makes me wonder if it's AI. Oh yeah, definitely the arrows. This is a little obsolete, but I'm still going to mention it. You have groupings of three because in probably any language, human minds tend to like to have things in threes. So I'll just give one example. I won't be able to remember it all. Mrs. Clinton, when she was running against Trump in 2016, he accused her of playing the woman card, and she said, if playing the woman card means, and she needed a list, then deal me in. You know, it was a great comeback. But she needed a list. And if she'd given us two, we think, you're running for president, you only have two policies? And if she'd given four, we'd have gotten lost in it. It had to be three. So they learned that, and sometimes you get like three lists of three in the same paragraph. Yeah, the arrows are the bullet points. Lots of bullet points. They love bullet points. Especially like I did here with the emoji. Do you use AI a lot? I should have asked this earlier. Don't use it. Do you not use it at all, or you just pretty much don't use it?
I pretty much don't use it, yeah.
Okay. Well,
what do you consider a lot?
I consider a lot to be every day. Yeah, I'm on it every day. And so I've seen a lot of bullet points with emoji. And I would have had my 16-year-old, now 16, we were putting together a computer in the living room. And, you know, we don't know what we're doing. So we'd say, this isn't working. Put it in ChatGPT and it would say, do this. Don't do this. Big X. So we're used to seeing that. The perfect punctuation, etc., all the mechanics of it. The thing is that good students do this too. Of course, they should do it. We should all do this. It is a way of telling it, but I'm going to say that this part is a good way of breaking away good students who do good work from the AI. Because if I were to write one of these 3-page position papers, like we do in some of these classes, then I would have an opening paragraph, and then I would have the other paragraphs as reasons for my thesis, and then I would have a conclusion. But the AI will take it a little too literally. It will say, this is my idea, and it will develop it. The first paragraph is going to be okay. But when you get to the last one, it will say, in conclusion, it loves to say in conclusion, and then it will repeat the thesis, because that's what you do, or that's what it thinks you do. Whereas if you're a real human being who does English well, you know it's got to be a little more interesting than that. You're going to develop it a little further. I'll go ahead and put this in here. Artifacts means things like As a large language model, I don't have any opinions, but because they have found scientific papers that were sent in, and it says in the middle of it something like, to answer your earlier prompt, or this was written by ChatGPT or something. And they didn't even read it to cover their tracks well. So let's look at this one. When I came to college, I expected to learn new things, but I didn't expect my core beliefs to be shaken. Growing up, I lived in a small, tight-knit community where most people shared the same values, opinions, and backgrounds, three things that they share. I thought I had a pretty solid grasp on how the world worked, but in my first semester, I met people with completely different perspectives on religion, politics, religion, identity, and they did have actually have something else. In my philosophy class, I was introduced to arguments that made me question ideas I had always accepted without much thought. Conversation with roommates and classmates made me realize how much of my thinking was shaped by my environment. At first, it was uncomfortable. I felt defensive and uncertain, but over time, I became more open, learning to listen without trying to win an argument. I haven't abandoned all my original beliefs, but I definitely refined them and in some cases replaced them with better informed views. College hasn't taught me just talking facts, in dash. It's taught me how to think more critically, how to question respectfully, and how to grow. So we see some of the red flags that I already listed here, but I'm guessing that even if you hadn't thought of those red flags, you'd know this was an AI-generated text. How would you know?
In my experience, the machines tend to overperform model studenthood. So I get responses even without thinking about style that are clearly crafted to tell me as the professor what I want to hear, and it's always a little too quaint.
You can say more about point, small town aspect.
No, I don't mean it's small town. I guess I mean like nostalgic a little bit. Like it swallows a textbook about how studenthood should work, and then feeds a kind of more romanticized version of the learning process. That students could craft something to tell me what I want to hear, but this is like too tidy, maybe.
Yeah. I've actually discussed with ChatGPT the questions I could give that would be really hard for you to answer in a way that I couldn't detect. And it would say things about, I don't do things messy. And real life is messy, and I tend to, like you say, make everything just too pat. Is there anything else that tips you off that this has got to be AI?
No personalized exam.
Yes, they will do that. It's very impersonal. There's not a proper name in here, and every time people are referenced, they're all in groups. I didn't have a conversation with my roommate. I had conversations with roommates. There's not one single opinion that was referenced. It's all in the abstract.
Also, the sentence structure is highly varied.
Yeah.
Which I like, but it's one area our students struggle the most.
Yeah.
Is a varied sentence structure.
Anything else? This is sort of a variation on what Mr. Butcher said here, but when you're done, you don't know really any more than when you started. It's just all fluff. So I've got some more red flags that are a bit more high level. These just high level ones. One is, I would notice that if I said something like, because I give it too much information, you should if you're trying to solve a problem. In using Microsoft Word 2016, I want to replace the template. And it will respond with, in Microsoft Word 2016, rather than just saying, here's how you do it, because it's repeating the prompt. And sometimes it repeats so much of the prompt with extra information it really didn't need because I was giving it too much. I remember I said I wanted to apply a template from my publisher to an existing document. It said to apply a template from your publisher. Like that would make any difference. Repeating specific details not used in the argument. You've all seen this, haven't you? The first time I tested it out, I thought, well, okay, I will ask it about my research. I said, define nexus state planning and tell me, and give references, including links, and complete references. So it came up with something that was plausible, but was utterly wrong, and nobody else uses this term. And it gave 2 references in journals that I know of, and I recognized some of the authors' names. Of course, it was dead links because they didn't write them. The impersonality aspect, I wouldn't have thought of this. There's another reference I'm going to show you in a moment that pointed this out. The AI would not say, I know this is sort of obsolete, I take my hat off to you. It would say hats off to you, because it doesn't really do I that much unless it has to. And the empty praise that we've all been seeing really this year especially. And I've seen it mocked on Bill Maher, where it'll say something. And I said to ChatGPT, some incredibly stupid question. It'll say, great question, you're really insightful. But it will also apply that, not just to you asking the prompt, it will apply it to others as well. The vague words, I would notice this when I was giving it something that I would say, you got to have reasons for your conclusion. So give me this argument, give me reasons for the conclusion. And it would throw in things that were relevant, but it would never use them for anything. And we know this one as well. The most graphic in my case was in programming, where I have a library called SSDL. So the student asked, probably at that point, ChatGPT, to write a program for her doing this with SSDL. It had never heard of SSDL, it has now. So it said, she means SDL. And she had something in there with pointers and application and all this stuff that we weren't going to cover for 6 months. And she said, can you help me with this? I said, yeah, stop using ChatGPT. Now, I was surprised to find that Wikipedia has put a lot of thought into this, but it makes sense because they don't want AI-generated content. They don't want the AI-generated content because it's absolute garbage. I'll look over this, but I also want to look at the page itself. It has some words that AI loves to use and that ordinary people don't. Everything sounds like an ad. You would not say that the Louvre has over 1,000 great artworks. You would say it boasts over 1,000 great artworks, which no human being says in real life unless they're writing advertising copy. I don't think, anyway. Then not only, but also, they've been hitting it real hard these days where it will say, it's not just this, M dash, it's that. It will do it repeatedly in the same document. You go to that. Guess mode is fine. But we really do go there. Okay. Signs of AI writing. This is some of that AI speak. It doesn't just do, it serves as. It doesn't just show, it is a testament to.
Should we be seeing it?
Oh, you are, and I'm not seeing this. I'm sorry, she's not seeing this, and I am. Can you make it so that they can see my screen?
It's probably just a display setting. Not just in the school setting, but also.
One day we'll have to wonder whether your computer enhanced or not. But that's much better. Okay. So this is some of the vocabulary stuff. Plays a role in the ecosystem, contributes to Hawaii's rich cultural heritage. Not just coverage, but independent coverage, written by experts, things like that. Yes, coverage of, well, I don't know what else would you say for coverage. It highlights things. There are things really that's just, all of this stuff is just boiling down to it. It sounds like ad copy. Okay, let's get to something you haven't seen yet. Here's being a bit vague. Despite challenges, and they're still feeling like the same way, I would skip a little further. It loves to capitalize. Now, Wikipedia does that too, but your students probably don't. I hope they don't. It loves to capitalize things and maybe overuse. Did I say capitalize? I meant that, but I also meant put in bold. Overuse of boldface.
Is there a name for also the addition of phrases as titles, where a title was like a subtitle?
I don't know, because I'm not sure what you mean.
Like excessively adding subtitles in a paper that's too long to have or too short to have sub, right? It likes to add these like tags for the prose that's going to come.
It does that. I don't know the name for it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Another thing it's likely to do is when it references something, it won't just say that this was in Joe Blow's Guide to the Universe. It will say Joe Blow's Guide to the Universe, the chapter 6, out around Orion or something. It goes into more detail than a human being would go into. If you were a good writer and researcher, you might put Joe Blow's Guide, page 67 or something. But it likes to do that. Let me cut through some of the chase. Yeah, we're seeing all this, the use of M dashes, tables. How often do your students put tables in things when they don't have to? Probably 0% of the time. But it doesn't have any trouble with it. Okay, yeah, I'm used to seeing that, but let me go a little further. That's artifact. This is one of the things that I thought was most interesting, and I haven't figured out a way for us to apply it yet. But Wikipedia needs to be written in Wikipedia markup language, which has a special thing in brackets for italic, and a special thing for link, and a special thing for subheading, and so on. And it was derived from something called Markdown. Yeah, there it is, Markdown. But it's different. And the thing is, the AIs were trained on the internet, so it sees they see a lot of Markdown. They don't see much Wikipedia. And so if you tell it to put your stuff in Wikipedia markup language, it will use Markdown, even though you said, don't ever use Markdown. It will still do it. And I kind of wondered if there was something that we could do to have some sort of weird formatting and not spend too much time on it, such that that it won't know how to do it, and maybe it will confuse it with something else.
Will,
yes,
you kind of hinted at this earlier, but why is an AI listening to your talk, reading these pages self-correctly?
Well, one reason I'll check off right now. One reason is it knows about Wikipedia markup language, but it knows so much more about Markdown it kind of can't forget what it knows. I've noticed that also. I try to get it to chat in Japanese with me, and I'm not very good. And I would say, keep it to JLPT1 level, which is like very beginner. And it would say, hey, and then it would start going with all this stuff, and it's just throwing all these words at me that it can't forget. I know that when you are interacting with AI, it is not learning from you. So they say, and I believe this is true, it will remember things that you say if you are in that mode, which you probably are. So that later it can say, well, I know you're interested in runoff figures, so, and then it will link those two, but it doesn't send it back, supposedly. It has to learn that from the greater corpus. And when there is stuff out on the internet about how AI can fool you better, then it will learn it then. But there never will be that many pages on how to fool AI, or how AI can fool you compared to everything else. So it probably won't have that big an effect. Here I'm stretching, I don't really know. Okay. I was really interested in the markdown problem. And we all know about citations, the broken links, the invalid ones, the things that don't exist. And that's all I wanted to say about that. Let's do a slideshow. Let's go to current slide. Okay, nice. Okay, we've got those. There's Wikipedia. Now, about those things that are not English text, I wanted to mention that because I didn't know if anybody was going to has student assignments that aren't English text besides me. I can say in computer science, I will notice that they have absolutely perfect comments if it comes from AI, because comments are things that the human reads and the computer doesn't, so they don't have to be precise. And so the tabbing will be different, the spacing will be different, and I don't care if it's different, but AI does. 5 spaces, / 1 space, start the comment. And everything is rigorously commented. And I think I could threaten hellfire and brimstone with my students to get them to place comments, and they still wouldn't do it. And when I do find one that's willing to comment, he's chatty. And AI's not chatty. There's the obscure content. I want to bring up one of these. Do we have time? Yeah, we got time.
It's the most terrible time of the year. All the shops turn to mayhem, even Santa knows space, and the tree redecorated your place. It's the most terrible time of the year.
It's not saying show me anything. Yep. And I'm going to have to keep going back and forth because the links are. I guess I can. Okay. Okay.
It's the most.
That's not bad. Okay. I'll spare you some of the music.
No space, and the tree redecorated your place. It's the most terrible time of the year. So you flee from the madness, the lights, and the cheer, and hide out in McDonald's till January's here.
Admittedly, the script came from humans, and the script is the real problem here. But as you look at it, it does things perfectly, but you may not care. I'll notice often on X, I don't know if I'm seeing it as much this month, people will say, oh, you Philistines, you think AI can't do anything. Look at this, and the entire film industry is going to be gone in a year. And I'll look at it and I'll say, it's pretty impressive to see a cat eating people in boats or whatever, but nobody's going to make a movie about cats eating boats. It's just cheap special effects. Okay, let's see if I can get back and show something else. this. Spend too much time on this. Let's see what this one is. I probably won't do the whole thing. Open.
Someone needs a hit of original sauce. Supercharge your day with the 100% natural fragrance of original sauce. Original sauce. Nature hits different.
What's your impression of that ad?
I think they all have the same slippery gliding motion. Like everything is just way too smooth.
It's very smooth, it's very fast. My problem is I'll look at this and I say, I suppose that's impressive, but I don't care. And I think that's also true of AI text. You don't care. I don't care.
Walking down the end of the street, past the places where we meet, colors changing in the sky, wonders make me wonder why.
And I'm not giving it the full time, but I don't know if your impression is the same as mine. I can't point to anything about it I don't like, but I don't like it. It's like elevator music.
There's only one Ozempic.
What was that? You have to blame that on humans, I'm afraid.
The golden is coming back, yeah. Oh yeah, getting back to the fine, backyard love.
Same reaction?
That was worse. Yeah.
Earlier on, I couldn't find this anymore. There is a non-released theme song, and there is an AI version of it. And you can tell it's the same song, but the AI version just didn't make me want to listen to it. It was perfect, but it didn't make me want to listen to it. And if there was somebody here for music, then maybe we'd be able to find out more about that. Okay, slideshow. Current slide. Okay. So I wanted to try out these criteria on these two. You can read them pretty well, right? Looks like it's in good focus. Take a little bit of time and see which one you think is the AI generated. You have an opinion yet? This one is which? Okay, let me say, which one's AI? This one? This one? I wrote this. What were your criteria? Because they might be good criteria. Go ahead.
I thought because it said, first it says in science, it often happens, and then scientists say.
Yeah.
So.
And I was comparing it to the other one, which was so poorly written, that it made this one look better.
Well, now I did cheat. I told it Write this from the perspective of a college freshman who's not very good at writing, which supposedly is something that students have done, not here, because they would never do that here. And so it's kind of very chatty. Go ahead.
I did think the one on the left was AI, although I've been doing that in my comp class a lot, asking it to produce examples that sound like comp. To me, the signals are the big categories, groups that never change, letting outsiders in. Like those phrases read to me as like big capacious placeholders that it tends to use for lack of more specific.
Yeah, it's very non-specific. It is not very well written, but it is not very well written in a way a computer can handle. And on this side, there's specifics all over the place. There's also a little bit of a rabbit trail, but it's not the kind of that rabbit trail that an AI would do. The AI will stick in some words, but they don't really attach to anything, they're just in a list. This is a little bit of a rabbit trail that indicates that the student, or in this case, the professor, wanted to get in a dig at Carl Sagan before it was time to go on. Let's do another one. Now you know that I cheated. I told it, don't write like an expert. Write like somebody who doesn't really know writing. Does anybody have a strong opinion?
Lillian writes an I and talks about it in church, but it's specific.
It does have the doesn't stop, it just construction. I'm still, but I've, to me, those are, and it's repeated too, I'm still not 100% sold, but I've stopped. I'm still skeptical, but I'm finally listening.
The other thing is that when I was trying to find a paper that I could assign that AI couldn't fake, as I was giving it things, I would see this structure a lot. I said, change your mind. Talk about when you changed your mind. And it would, but you're still kind of in the middle. This is how it ends up in the middle. It didn't say, well, I once thought this, and now I think this other thing. I once thought this, and I'm still not 100% sold. Or it just kind of had to stick something in the middle to make sure that it said that it wasn't committed. So this is the AI generated. Anybody got strong views? It's blues. What's with the centering? There's a typo here. And I can imagine, if you were a really dedicated cheater, that you would want to alter things to make them look more human. But I can't imagine you would put spelling errors in your document, because you might get counted off for that, so you don't want to do that. And this is just kind of a rambling thing where he does come back to this finally. He just kind of talks all around it. He's not going anywhere. This one is structure. Starts with this sort of almost anecdote, but it's very personal. It has a reason, and it develops it further. And this paper will look at evidence. I see that in technical papers, but I don't see it in student papers. And this is, I think, my last one.
So which one was which on the last one?
Oh, okay, let me go back up if I can figure out how. The one on the left is student, and the one on the right is AI. The one on the right is well-structured. It's very informal, but it's well-structured and it doesn't have any typos. It didn't center the whole.
Another signal is that transition phrases are common in student writing, but not common in AI package writing. Like first things first, and in all seriousness are kind of hallmarks of how they speak.
If the AI does give you those transitions, it's going to be things like furthermore, things students don't say.
Just a question for you. When you said you cheated and prompted it to write at a lower level or
Yes.
to mimic our students, did you specify specific mistakes you wanted them to make?
No. I just said, write like a freshman who's not very good at writing. And I know why you asked that. We got this one? Which one's a real human being? Real human being are computers. A computer would put a comma here because that's a mistake. A computer would, in lowercase Robertson X, is Judge and Foster and after the comma. And like the film Contact, comma, it presents a thoughtful exploration. Thoughtful exploration is kind of AI, but it's just kind of formal-like. Whereas over here, there's not really much going on, but there's no indications of humanity. And it just kind of rambles a little. So, in this case, I used the students' real errors. And in fact, I was reading the student paper, and I believed it, to determine that. So, you just sort of count them up. I think what we see from this exercise is, if I were doing this in a class, I would have a checklist, and I would be doing, okay, I've got about 4, and it's starting to look suspicious. Okay, so that is what I would do. I would have a checklist. I wish provosts were still in here, because I think we might need to change the way we do academic dishonesty, because when it relates to AI, it's hard to prove on the basis of objective criteria. I think you have to have more like a preponderance of evidence. I don't know how to get that to work fairly yet, because we've all heard the horror stories, true or not, about the furious high school teachers who denounces the student for plagiarizing something that she wrote. And of course, we're seeing a lot of changes in higher education, and some people are saying, why are you doing all this stuff anyway, instead of just like send them to Khan Academy. But I don't think Khan Academy is going to work too well. We've got these references here, but I don't think you really care about any of them except maybe this one. I covered really all of the And I used the ChatGPT where I was saying, okay, tell me how I can overcome this sort of thing, and tell me what you can't do, and things like that. And of course, I didn't believe it, because you can't. Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
What if like the students use AI ideas and they look at the AI text and like sort of summarize or use those ideas in your own writing? The writing is done by a student. You just copy the ideas its own or his own sentences.
Well, one possibility is we can't solve it. Another possibility is that maybe we don't need to solve it. I use AI for learning all the time. Now, I usually don't like the idea just as a post, but I will use it. I don't necessarily think that's wrong. Anything else? Okay, I guess we are out.